Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 10 easy carnivore tames. So let's get into it. In at number 10 is the Bulbdog, and this was first introduced on Arboration, and what a creature this is. And some may say it's not a carnivore, as you do tame it with mushrooms kind of to start off with, but its favourite food is mutton. The Bulbdog is also a very useful carnivore as well, especially with its light pet ability, making Reapers and Nameless significantly debuffed against you, and I'm pretty sure Nameless won't even come out of the ground when in the presence of a lit up Bulbdog. On Operation, definitely a worthy tame, and a pretty easy one, and on other maps as well, it is just a really cute shoulder pet to have in your roster. In at number 9 is the Bionic. Now overall, the Bionic is not the easiest of carnivores to tame. There are definitely some much easier carnivores to tame on this list, but the Bionic is just so useful, and it isn't necessarily a difficult tame, which is why it is on this list, for obvious reasons. And especially if you have the next gun at your disposal, the Bionic will be one of the easiest tames in the game. But if you don't, you can just make a simple 2x2 trap with foundations and door frames. It will be extremely easy, and it will work every single time with no fail. The only fails you can really have is the creatures around you killing you and kind of destroying your tame in that sense. But once tamed, you have yourself an absolute beast of a caving Ark Dino. This creature is absolutely insane for caving, and yes, many people nowadays do use the Shadow Mane for caves, as it is again a small creature which can fit into most caves. The Bionic is still always my go-to, and unlike the Shadow Mane, it has that secret spin ability there, which was somewhat hidden by the subscribe button, but you will see it later on in this b-roll. And essentially what it does is it will stun enemies, and it can stun enemies up to the size of a Megalodon. Sadly, it doesn't work on land, which would be great, but it is still great in the water, and it makes it really good for those underwater caves. And yes, the underwater caves with the artifacts and not the loot, but I'm sure most of you will know that by now. Next up, we have the Angler, and what a creature this is, and also what a forgotten creature the Angler is. And the Angler is definitely a creature which you should tame at some point, especially in the early to mid game stages of the Ark game. Obviously not too early, as you do not want to be venturing into the ocean, I think, until at least you're in the high 20s or low 30s in terms of level. But what is the Angler used for, apart from just being a reasonable creature for traveling around Ark's oceans? Well, this thing is by far the best ocean creature out there for gathering silica pearls. There just isn't any other creature which can match its gathering ability. Obviously, there are going to be better ocean creatures out there, but silica pearls are an extremely useful resource, and it can do black pearls as well if black pearls do actually spawn ambiently on that map, which is a good thing as well, as again, silica pearls and black pearls are an extremely useful resource which later in the game you will need a lot of. So if you start gathering them early on, you'll definitely be thankful. Next, we have the Argentavis, and this is by far a kind of bread and butter Ark creature. You need this creature in Ark, and there's pretty much no questions asked about this creature. This is a creature that you just have to have, unless you're obviously on Gen 1 or Arboration, when flyers are not allowed. But on most maps, excluding the two which I just mentioned, the RG is always a tame which every Ark player should have. And the main reason for that is for its metal gathering abilities. Yes, it can't gather metal in itself, but it is still an insane resource of a creature which can be used to get to and from the mountains, and you can use a different creature like an Anki to actually gather up that metal. And this will have weight reduction on things like metal, crystal, and obsidian, so you can easily transport it from A to B with no weight problems at all. And also, the RG can pick up a wealth of creatures as well, making it pretty good for taming other creatures too, especially the Anki again, as you can pick up an Anki on the RG, and then you can simply drop it into a trap. But if you do not have the RG available to you, the Anki is still a very easy tame, as you can just lead it into a little trap, the same with a Bionic, and the Anki is pretty slow, so you shouldn't have too many issues. Also, its saddle works as a portable smithy, and if it eats a dead body, it has absolutely insane regen. Now, the Bufo. This is a creature which, again, is definitely really underrated among many people, and it is a creature which I really see so much potential in, and it is a creature which I use used a lot for cementing paste gathering. It is an absolutely insane gatherer of cementing paste, and unlike things like beaver dams, it is a lot more reliable, as if you didn't know already, Ark is an extremely buggy game, which hopefully will be fixed for ASA, but we never know, and sometimes beaver dams just will not spawn on the map, or will you just have to wait for them to spawn as the beavers haven't made them yet, or there just isn't any beaver dams on the map for whatever reason. There are just so many things which can go wrong with beaver dams on Ark maps, and the Beals of Bufo is a sure way to get that cementing paste every single time, especially on the island as you have the insect cave, and if you have a good Beals of Bufo that has enough health to withstand the absolute insanity of insects which are in the insect cave, then you'll have yourself a really good time on this thing. It is a very easy tame, which can just be tamed with the net gun again, or with a simple trap, and it may be able to be bowlered, but I'm not quite sure about it. Either way, if you can, tame yourself one of these frogs, you will not regret it. In at number 5 is the Crystal Wyvern, and this creature is more for the mid-game Ark players, as sadly it is unlocked behind a level wall. You have to unlock this thing over level 65, which in my opinion is a bit of a shame, but it is definitely an OP creature, and if you do a quick, cheeky, sneaky note run, you can actually get this thing pretty quickly, and it isn't too bad. And its taming method is probably one of the easiest on the list, but it is just a little bit further back, as that 65 level requirement is a bit steep for quite a lot of new Ark players. But the way how you tame it is a very simple passive tame using a type of crystal that you only find on Crystal Isles, and then you just feed it that crystal, and there's a spot where you can sit on its back and you can just simply press the button every time it asks for it, and then in a matter of minutes, or maybe 10 to 20 minutes, you'll have yourself a fully tamed Crystal Wyvern. And if you go for the Blood Crystal Wyvern, you have yourself an even better creature, as its blood sucking ability, I'm pretty sure, regens you and also just deals so much damage to the enemy. Definitely really good wyverns to have, and compared to the traditional wyvern, they are significantly easier to tame, and they have all the wyvern benefits. Again, they have the insane speed, they can pick up all the same creatures. Obviously, their turning circle isn't great, but they're wyverns, and also their damage and health is up there as well. Definitely creatures that if you're over that level 65 boundary, you should tame. Now, the Maywing. This creature was originally introduced on Gen 2, and many people still think that this is not a carnivore, but in fact it is, and if you have tamed a Maywing, you will know it's a carnivore, but I'm pretty sure it's an omnivore as well, so you can get away with berries, which is kind of where the mix-up of this list comes. Yes, it does still eat meat, which is why I'm including this thing on the list, and most things will say that this is a carnivore type creature, and you probably want to feed it meat anyway, as later on in the stages of the Ark game, meat is much easier to come by than any berry can be. And in terms of its abilities, this is by far the best travel mount you will find out there. There is just nothing that can match the absolute speed of a Maywing, and the efficiency too. They really are insane travel mounts. And also on top of that, they are great for raising and breeding your creatures up too, as they act as a portable feeding trough. Definitely one to be extremely useful, especially if you're more into breeding. And you can even steal enemy creatures that are being raised if you're into PvP and you're raiding someone's base, when the servers are obviously back up. And also, you can even gather berries with these things with the berry flop ability. Definitely a very good creature. In at number 3 is the Carno. Now, I can't forget the Carnotaurus, and in my opinion, this is one of the best carnivores out there, which is why it is so high on the list. It is just so easy and simple to tame. Again, with that very simple trap. You can just shoot it from afar, and then it will run into the trap, and then you just have to knock it out, and it's so easy, as long as there aren't other hostile creatures in the area, which sometimes it can definitely be the case, and sometimes it can go wrong. But if you do the right preparation, this will be a piece of cake to tame, and you will have no issues with it at all. And I urge you to tame one of these things. They are really good. Yes, they won't stack up to the damage of an Aloe or health of the Rex, but they have a mobility that the Rex can't have, and they also have the ease of taming, which the Aloe doesn't really have as much, as the Aloe does come in packs, and the Aloe is significantly faster than the Carno, but the Carno still has a very decent amount of speed and a decent amount of stamina to go along with it. And like the Aloe, it also has the bleed ability, as if you use use its second attack, which is a headbutt, it will inflict the bleed to your creature which you are actually attacking, which again is an insanely useful ability for a carnivore to have. And the Rex and the Spino don't even have that ability. The Carno is definitely one to be tamed. It isn't difficult. I know it looks daunting if you have just started Ark, but trust me, in your first at least couple of days of Ark playing, if you can get up to the saddle level requirement, you'll tame yourself a really, really nice Carno. In at number 2 is the Reaper. Now, many of you right now may think I am completely crazy. How is the Reaper an easy tame? It is one of Ark's late game tames, and it is one of the most difficult tames in Ark. So why is it in an easy carnivores list? And I'm not just going to say because it's an insane carnivore, as that still would not be an excuse for this thing being on the list. Well, the reason why is on Genesis Part 2, the Reaper is a really, really easy tame. But sadly, on all of those other maps that the Reaper spawns, you'll not have as good of a time. Which is why I'm not putting it in number 1, as the number 1 spot is reserved for a much more accessible creature that is actually still significantly easier to tame than the Reaper. Essentially, if you want to check out how to tame it on Gen 2, check Raj Clark's guide. You can just search up Raj Clark Reaper Easy Taming Gen 2, and it will come up right there, and then you can look how to tame one. If you don't have Gen 2, sadly, the Reaper is not going to be an easy tame for you. But this taming method is just such a good discovery that I couldn't discount it, and I have to have it on this list. And once tamed, obviously, the Reaper is an absolute beast of the carnivore, and it is one of the best creatures which you can get in Ark. Overall, just completely. The Reaper is insane with a wealth of attacks and a beastly amount of damage, and a really, really nice health stat to go along with it too. But before we get into number 1, I have a quick honourable mention, which is the Pteranodon. This is by far the easiest fly to tame, with its saddle unlocked at level 38. You really can't miss it. It's just a simple boulder and club tame. Definitely worth it. And finally, in at number 1 is the Deinonychus. Now, in terms of the taming method for this thing, you can basically not get simpler. Essentially, you go to the Chalk Cliffs on Valguero, which is a free DLC, by the way, so every Ark player, apart from, I think, Switch, and definitely mobile players, will have access to this thing as long as you obviously have Ark and you're not one of those people that just watch Ark top 10s because they're thinking of buying Ark. If you're one of those people, that is totally fine. In terms of the Deinonychus's abilities once tamed though, this thing has a wealth of them. Mainly its bleed ability, where it can latch onto larger creatures and just inflict all of that bleed damage. Definitely one which is extremely useful, especially because it can be used in bosses extremely effectively, which I'm pretty sure to this day no other carnivore can actually achieve. But also, the Deinonychus is an absolutely insane pack mount as well, just for general travel around the Valguero map, and one which is 100% worth taming. You just need the egg, and then you'll just need some torches, which are unlocked at an extremely low level. And again, talking about their travel, these things can zip across the map, and they can climb up any wall or vertical surface. These things can literally just parkour across any Ark map with absolute ease, and deal all the damage that you'll be required to do, which is an absolutely insane thing for a carnivore of this ease to tame to actually have. Definitely one 100% worth the tame. But anyway, that was the end of today's video, and I hope you enjoyed. Also, comment down below your top 10 favourite easy Ark carnivores that you always go for, and I will see you all later.